Hello. Today is Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. Can we just take a moment? The sun. It's almost like the closest thing to unconditional love that I can name, that I can feel. Today, amongst all days, is the perfect day for Earth appreciation, for the source, the mother, God, Earth. Sometimes I just can't believe how blessed I am to have been gifted the opportunity to even be introduced to her in the first place. Like, look at this. Oh my gosh, look at it. Feel it. Listen to it. I honestly wouldn't trade today for anything. I love Earth and I appreciate her every single day. I love nature. I appreciate her every single day. But today, amongst all days, is the designated day. And may we as humans learn to love and appreciate her more than we ever have before it's too late. I do have a couple of things I want to talk about. A couple of things on my mind. I just felt like spiritual bypassing kept coming into play, and I just felt more bothered by outside sources than I usually do. And I just really wanted to focus on authentic healing as opposed to suppression, the illusion of separation. I had to remember that we embody both darkness and light. And the last thing I want to do is turn those into fragments. Sorry, there's a huge bird. Spirituality has become a lack of duality. Spirituality, in a lot of ways, has become light, love, peace. When in reality, we embody both darkness and light, both yin and yang. And when we allow ourselves to go through those motions and feel the authentic feelings of our darkest days and our darkest nights and our brightest days, we allow ourselves vulnerability. And I feel like nowadays that's such a rare occurrence, is to meet somebody who actually can be vulnerable without being apologetic. And I feel like that kind of person embodies both light and dark. And that's where a lot of people get the spirituality of it all messed up, honestly. That's what I feel. I feel like a lot of times people think that this is just love and light, when in reality there are some really, really dark days. There are some really ugly moments that you didn't even think you could get that low, yet we did. By allowing the darkness to coexist with the light, we are telling our souls, our spirits, that it's okay. And the last thing you want to do is hide any of those emotions, or potentially trick your brain into thinking that, oh, I'm healed, when in reality all you've done is suppress. Growing up, I was always labeled as sensitive, and it was thrown in my face like it was an insult. Oh, you're so sensitive. Like, oh, it was just a joke, you're being sensitive. Oh, here freedom goes, being sensitive again. And for the longest time, I was ashamed of who I am. I was ashamed of having feelings. So to survive in my household, I really had to put on this front, this facade that I was this cold-hearted being like everybody else in my household. And that, I always knew that really wasn't my true self. That wasn't who I really am. That wasn't what I want to embody. That wasn't me. And of course, I was a child, so I try not to I try not to beat myself up too much about it, because I was trying to survive too, trying to keep my head above water while drowning. And the last thing I want to do is make myself feel bad or guilty for it. And you know what? As an adult, I've realized that I am sensitive. I am a highly sensitive, beautiful, soulful being, and I am not going to apologize for it anymore. I'm going to continue to be vulnerable and allow my spirit and allow my soul to be worn on my sleeve. And I think once I learned to stop taking things personally, I think once I learned to stop allowing things to affect me so deeply on a personal level, and started realizing that simply everything is a projection of one other self. Like, simply everything is a projection of how, if somebody is mistreating you, that's a projection of how they feel within themselves, and by putting people down, it makes them feel better. And there was this quote. Dr. Gabor Mate says, "Children see themselves the way they're seen by the adults they're around. If a child gets emotional and those emotions are criticized, then they think that there's something wrong with their emotions. If the child is sensitive and they get told, 'Don't be so sensitive,' they think there's something wrong with them. The acceptance then becomes no longer unconditional. Like, I'll accept you only if you behave this way or look this way. And then all your life you become worried about how other people see you. Fundamentally, we need to be connected to ourselves. And when parents don't see us, we don't see ourselves." The second I heard him say those words, it's like something clicked in my brain. And it's unfortunate that as adults we've had to, like, the things we were conditioned to think about ourselves, or the things we were conditioned to believe about ourselves, becomes harder to unlearn and relearn. And as of right now, I'm reconditioning my brain, and it's been a journey. Oh, there's a beautiful ladybug. I wish you could see. Acceptance has been a huge topic in my life. And that goes for every single thing. And acceptance is way easier said than done, because what is acceptance, right? What is unconditional love? What is vulnerability? What is perception or being perceived, right? What is authentic healing? What is it all? Like, what is it all? Acceptance has been a huge topic in my life, especially when it comes to my chronic illnesses. Because before then, we think about a time where you didn't have the issues that you have now. It didn't hurt to walk. It didn't hurt to get up. It didn't hurt to speak. It didn't hurt to stand. And then chronic illnesses themselves are hard to explain to people who just don't have them. Chronic illnesses take over your life, and in I genuinely feel like unless you have a chronic illness, you're just not going to understand where people who have chronic illness come from. Every single day, we put on a mask and go out into the world because we refuse to allow ourselves to succumb. And it's been hard to accept that this is my life now, and I don't know when it won't be anymore, or if it ever won't be anymore, if this will always be how my life is. And I think about a time where I didn't have this issue, where I could travel and be okay and do little things like, it bothered me for a while seeing people live their life and drink and party every night. And I am 24 years old and can't do any of that. And that is simply for the betterment of my temple, of my being, of my soul, of my body. So that I don't wake up the next morning with insane stomach issues and inflammation where it's hard to even get up. And not saying that I'm missing out on anything per se, because before I got sick and when I was abusing my body, I was doing all those things. However, now it's the term of acceptance means I can no longer dwell on the fact that it wasn't always like this, right? It wasn't always pain. It's hard to even remember a time where I wasn't in pain, mentally, internally, physically. I think it was then when I realized I don't really care how I'm perceived by anybody who doesn't love me wholeheartedly, right? Because I'm thankful that I have the perfect group of people around me, and whether or not they're miles, thousands of miles away from me, I could not be happier with who I choose to allow into my space as of this current moment. And it's everybody in my circle who has gotten me through some of the most painful periods of my life the past 6 months. And I am thankful that I have the gift of vulnerability to just be transparent with everybody in my circle. They're a reminder as to why it's important to be on the journey that I am now, why it's important to stay on this path of breaking generational curses and pushing the boundaries and allowing myself to isolate and find out who I really am, not be ashamed of my vulnerability or sensitivity. I love living life as a highly sensitive person. I love seeing life as a highly sensitive person. I love the lens in which I see life as a highly sensitive person. I could not be more thankful that I have unconditioned myself to believe everything that I was once forced to believe about myself. I am sensitive and I am vulnerable and I'm no longer ashamed of it. Last night, in therapy, we made a connection as to, like, I have really chronic anxiety. I have a chemical imbalance in my brain, and we were trying to figure out why is it that whenever I'm by a body of water, whether it be ocean, river, lake, and why when I'm in the sun, I am no longer anxious. It's insane how these two elements of the earth take away almost all of my anxiety. My mother and I are estranged, yet these two elements remind me of her completely. My mom is where I got my love of water from. When we were younger, when I was younger, we used to say that we were mermaids or fish in another life together. And I had made this entry in my journal. Give me 1 second. This was my entry. Today is sunny. I had therapy, made a connection. When the sun is out in all her beautiful ways and I can't seem to bring myself to join her, I feel guilty. She reminds me of the constant Texas sun. Since we don't get many days here in Japan, I feel bad when I don't take advantage of it. Of her. The beautiful sunny day. The warmth of her embrace as she reaches out to caress my face, like she knew I needed a warmth only a mother could give, but that I'll never receive. My mom reminds me of the sun, the water. The moment of peace in those days that we would bask in nature and her oceans, rivers, and lakes. The only time we were truly mother-daughter. I am the water bearer. My mother is the water that I bear. In another life, we are just two mermaids sat on a rock in an isolated part of the ocean, feeling the same warmth of the same sun, together again. And there's so many things I want to talk about, and I'm just not prepared to talk about anything. I feel like I write all these things down in hopes to relay something, but I really feel like I've not been saying anything important or clockable. I don't know. There's a podcast I used to listen to called The Psychology of Her 20s, and she has a great podcast about nature and the healing powers of nature. I think at some point all of it ties in together. You know what I mean? I think at some point everything becomes itself, oneself. Everything becomes one. There's not one perfect answer to anything. We are genuinely all on this journey of consciousness, of awareness, together. And the only way we're going to get through anything is vulnerability, acceptance, and love. I genuinely feel like I was put on this earth to nurture and to heal and do it as my most authentic self. I genuinely believe that it is very possible to create space, to have mutual understanding and respect for others, and love and connection. But that's only possible if we allow ourselves to embody everything. Understand that each and every element that we're feeling is crucial to our human evolution. To find those around you that understand and cater to it. It's not hard to create relationships filled with love and acceptance. And for the longest time, I didn't believe that was possible. For the longest time, I felt unlovable, and then continued to have chronic illnesses and be more difficult and feel more unlovable. But I realized that that's something that I was conditioned to believe about myself, and it's just not true, but a projection of how that person or those people felt about themselves. And I was just an easy target. I want to be allowed to be myself for myself. I love healing, and I love authenticity, and I love being able to breathe air into my lungs and feel the rocks and water on my feet. And I think by doing this, it's vulnerability. It's accepting that I am a vulnerable, highly sensitive person. And I'm not scared to be perceived in any way by anybody. Because I'm comfortable in who I am. And I'm confident in who I am. And I wasn't always this way, so I just gotta keep going. We just gotta keep going. We gotta keep figuring it out. And I'm just very thankful that I had the right people in my corner, and I will continue meeting those who are meant for me. And accepting that this is my path and that I was put on, no matter how difficult and isolating it may be. I can conquer it, because I can conquer anything, because I have the source and love on my side. So, happy Earth Day. Peace.